They said that a lot of providers, they miss out on early diagnosis because they don't make the linkages. So they don't look at the full picture and understand the full experience. They talked about the importance of communication strategies. And here I want to emphasize what they said is that, you know, one, we need to focus on providing options. That you shouldn't just tell a person this is what you need to do. And they joking, someone said, I don't know if it was a joke, but people laughed in the, you know, in the focus group about this. They said, you know, black women are accustomed to telling people what they need to do. You know, they're not accustomed to somebody saying, you know, here's what it is that you need to do, and this is what you're going to do, and it's just antithetical to the way that you know, a lot of African American women work. And so what they said is, instead of telling me what to do, give me some options, and I can work through some of the options myself. Having the ability to control your situation is really critical when you don't have control in so many of these other areas. And then having less structured communication. So like, don't go down a form and say, did you do this? Check. Did you do that? Check. But sometimes having storytelling gives an opportunity for women to talk a little bit more about what's happening for them. I talked about discriminatory treatment, and what I'll emphasize with this is that the women said, you know, it's not just what I experienced, but it's the horror stories that I've heard from other people. And that gets trickled down into the community. So some implications. I think intersection research is critical. Yeah. You know, I think we're at a place in knowing about many of these issues. I didn't talk about substance abuse, I could have, but I think that intersection research is really critical to help us understand how these issues converge, how they come together, and how they enhance vulnerability for women. I think women are particularly vulnerable because of some of the issues we talked about, and in different parts of the world, even the legalities around being a woman. We must learn more about how to identify and address the cultural context and the nuances of culture. You know, I don't think that we've done enough work with that. I think that there's a lot more we need to understand about the relevance of culture, what it means, you know, how we value it. And I think a lot of times, you know, in our research, we have a sample of different groups of color, and we think that's cultural. But really understanding how people ascribe meaning is critical, and we need to do more of that. Perspectives change, and so we have to continue to go back and understand where people are coming from. So, you know, how folks felt about the virus 20 years ago, 10 years ago is different because the medicine has changed. You know, what we see has changed. And so we have to keep going back and figuring out where are people, right? And not assuming that what we thought we knew is still relevant now. We have to expose our students to the unique role of the social work researcher in developing interventions. I believe that social work gives a unique opportunity for interventions and programs to be developed by us that make sense, right? That can deal with the complexity of the intersections, right? The multiple intersections. And then finally, we need to help our students understand how gender impacts life choices, risks, perceived options, structural inequities, and some of the different community dynamics and expectations that many of the folks that we work with experience. I should probably say in closing, I have my email address here since I told you I have to boogie on out, but one of the things that I think that's really important for us to think about is to increase the number of researchers who can do this kind of work. To really support this work in a different way. And I think social work education has a role to play in that, to really value it, to fund it, you know, to have folks who are doing the research, who look like the people, you know, in the population. We could spend a lot of time on that. So I think that there's a lot that we need to do in terms of really talking through and developing more research in these areas. Yes, ma'am.
One question, it takes maybe 10 seconds. Were the women
Not with me, but go ahead.
Were the women HIV positive or negative or both? I may have missed that.
I didn't put that in there, and I apologize for that. About 20% of them were HIV positive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that actually ended my slide. And so I'm going to start to get Jackie's presentation together and get it up here for you, and she'll close us out, and hopefully we'll have a couple minutes where we can spend some time. And she'll tell you why.